Sorry, Nate, I'm going to speak. Do we commence or do we wait to be told?
Peter can go ahead and get started. See if we have
Excellent.
everyone
Okay,
here.
well, thanks
Sorry.
everyone for joining us. Unlocking Synergy webinar, collaboration between ARMA and RIMPA CEOs. Thanks everyone. We've got 3 people on the panel today. Anne Cornish, who is the RIMPA Global CEO, Nathan Hughes, CEO of ARMA International, and I'm Peter Sweeney, Information and Content Specialist from RIMPA Global. I will be your facilitator today, but mainly Anne and Nate will be doing all the talking. So thank you for joining us, Anne and Nate. We might just introduce ourselves first before we jump into the actual content itself. So as I said, my name is Peter Sweeney, Information and Content Specialist, long-time information practitioner, involved in, hello from Ottawa, Canada. Thank you very much, Lewis. Long-time information practitioner, have been involved in all sorts of things from policy work, strategy, systems implementations, and now I'm RIMPA Global's Information and Content Specialist, which presents a great opportunity to use those skills. So I might hand over to Anne, who will introduce herself. Thanks, Anne.
Peter, thank you. First of all, I'd just like to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm sure we'll end that way, but you can see that I'm a little bit festively dressed. So here in Australia, it's pretty much the end of the year for us. So we'll be, but most people will be sort of breaking up from work at this point in time. And we definitely have our Christmas party today, don't we, Peter? Our RIMPA Christmas party. So yeah, thank you very much for having me. So Anne Cornish, CEO of RIMPA Global. I've been in the industry, and I hate saying this, but for over 40 years, because remember, I must have started when I was a baby. In saying that, I was an SME, so I was actually a practitioner for a good 27 years, and then took on my own business or created my own business in the industry, and worked as a consultant for probably over 20-something years. So yes, as you can see, and then for the last 5 years, the CEO of RIMPA. So I really find this role amazingly challenging in a positive way, and because it's an overall, it gives the perspective. So the overarching perspective of all the aspects of our industry, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It's great. Every day is a different day, which is good.
Great, thanks, Anne. Nate, how about a little bit about you?
Thanks, Peter. Well, obviously, CEO here at ARMA. I've been with ARMA since 2015, and before that, really, I think like a lot of the practitioners that we work with every day, kind of worked on the sidelines, not really knowing I was doing records management, information governance, all of that over the years. But really started off with a law firm background in their technology side, and moved on to working for the Federal Reserve Bank, actually here in Kansas City, where I'm located, and dealt with a lot of their bigger projects, and one of which was really bringing in document management and retention management software to HR systems across the Fed and things like that, and kind of then moving on to some work that I did with a boutique law firm here in Kansas City that really focused on e-discovery and information management and all of that. So it just kind of evolved into where we are today. So it's great to be here, and I'm glad that everyone is here to join us to hear more about our two organizations and learn a little bit about what we're doing together.
Thanks, Nate. I just want to say, if anyone's got any questions, please pop them into the chat. We'll try to answer those as we go through. We might throw some of those questions over to Anne and Nate if necessary, or we'll try and answer them for you as we go through our presentation today. Now, the collaboration that we've had, this new venture between ARMA and RIMPA, has been really exciting. So maybe, Nate, you might start off with us on how the two organizations actually came to be collaborating together.
Sure. It's a funny story, actually. Anne, spoke, I think, at an ARMA event, and I was invited or was a part of that, and then ended up reaching out. And the two of us actually started to chat and realized we have a lot in common. both organizationally and what we're looking to do in the industry itself. And I kind of preach this to everybody. I have never partnered with another organization in this capacity or any other capacity where things didn't just click, or the things clicked this smoothly right out of the gate. And the excitement between Ann and I, before we even had a chance to really push this to our boards and really start the formal partnership side of things, you could tell that there was something there that was unique. And it's been amazing seeing this grow from early last year, early 2022, and being able to be included in the conferences on the RIMPA side, having the RIMPA folks at ARMA conferences, the content sharing, all of those types of things. It's been just amazing to continue, because things keep snowballing. We keep finding new things that we want to move into, and new ways to do things. So really it came about, I think, from an email. I don't even know if you emailed me, Ann. I think it was somebody else that you might have gotten a hold of, or somebody, I can't remember. So it was me. But it just kind of snowballed from there. So I don't know if you want to talk about any of that, Ann, as well.
No, I think you're right. And actually, I don't know if it was you, Nate, that I did email. I think it might have been the president or the chair of your board at the time,
Yep.
who a name that I got from a contact here, a colleague here, and from InfoGov ANZ. And I think that I just got through to you in that way. So it was a roundabout way, but I was adamant to get through to ARMA. I tried, I think 5 years ago when I first started the job, and I think my purpose of doing that, or my reason for doing that, was that, and I'm going to put this out there, the perception is that, if you want to be a part of the world, you've got to be a part of the US, right? It's as simple as that. And I mean that in a positive sense. And I think 5 years ago, I wasn't overly successful in doing that. I couldn't get the right person, or I think you might have, and Nate, you might know this a bit better, there might have been a bit of a change in presidents and not necessarily people making contact. I don't know what happened, but anyway, we sort of got left. And then, as you mentioned, I spoke at InfoCon, and I think one of the delegates there said, oh, we should be talking with, ARMA and RIMPA should be talking more together, and that just instigated, and it worked. And I have to agree and reiterate what Nate said. It's been an amazing partnership. And I can't explain that when Nate and I speak, it's like a bit of deja vu, isn't it, Nate, that you'll go, oh, we're doing this. I go, oh my God, we're just doing that, or we're thinking of doing that, or yeah, it's just been unbelievable. So we're very much on par from an organisational point of view of what we're doing, and we're learning off each other, and we've changed things. I don't know about you guys. I know you have, and Nate, but RIMPA have changed their governance and some of their procedures, and even some of the things they do at their conferences as a result of the learnings from working with ARMA. So it's been great, really good. So yes, that's how we came together. It was meant to be. There you go. If anyone believes in things, it was meant to be.
Right.
Awesome. I think that's a really nice segue. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits for ARMA and RIMPA. And you've already started to touch on those, Anne. The fact that both organisations have shifted a few little things. We're learning off each other. But can we just explore the benefits for ARMA and RIMPA as a partnership for the profession, and also for us as organisations?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, Peter, sorry, Nate, I'll take that. Like I mentioned, just the learning of what each other does. I mean, I know that ARMA they came to our board meeting in June of 2022, which was the first time we had both Nate Hughes and Wendy McLean, who was the current chair at the time, come to our board meeting. And again, that was when we really realised that, that was the time when the RIMPA board were talking about abolishing or removing our branches. So we had the issue of volunteers were giving what we were calling inequitable services to our members across Australia. So for those that don't know, in Australia, we have states and territories, and we used to have a branch as such, very similar to how ARMA are now, in each state and territory. Some of the territories didn't have them. Some of the states, Peter, if you recall, didn't have them. So we had some issues, and I said we had members paying the same amount of money, unfortunately not getting the same service. And we also, even though they had volunteers in some of the states, some states were really full of energy and doing lots and lots of things, and other states weren't necessarily able to accommodate their members in the same way. So RIMPA were going through this, major change at that time, and we were discussing that. And the biggest benefit I had was Nate and Wendy gave us a whole lot of advice and information about their structure and what they'd been doing at the time. And Nate and I can't recall, but you were removing a layer, I think, in your hierarchy at the same time, which I'm sure you'll talk about. But that all worked. It all made sense. So it was so nice to be able to talk to another like association about something that we were doing that I think we thought we were on our own, be honest, and doing it for the first time, but we weren't. And that was great to hear and to talk about and they had learnings, because I think you were a little bit further down the track than what we were at that point, Nate, saying that. But I think just broadening both, Nate and I will both agree, broadening our knowledge, broadening the knowledge of the board. Peter, you were part of the board at the time when all this was happening, and I'm sure that you experienced some learnings by just being part of ARMA, and I know that you've travelled overseas as well to an InfoCon, or not an InfoCon, but an ARMA conference as well, to see the learnings from that. So I think it just, I'm going to use a really cliche, but it's just opened up our horizons, really.
Yep, agree.
Remember, we in Australia sometimes feel very siloed. We're this huge, big country that's an island that no one wants to come to because it takes 20 bloody hours to get here. But in saying, and we're used to that. We know that whenever we've got to go somewhere, we've got to take it's a long duration. But for people to come over to us, we're starting to open up our borders, to invite people and make them feel welcome. And I'm sure Nate feels that way. So they're my benefits. I could keep talking because it's amazing. It's been great.
We talked about this, just so everyone knows, we talked about this ahead of time, is that we have two people here that don't have any qualms about talking and talking and talking. So we can fill the space with whatever it is that we need to fill the space with, which is great. And I thank you for that, Anne. I think the benefits on the organizational side are clear too. What you're talking about, being able to learn from each other, what our organizations are doing, bounce ideas off of each other to help our members and help expand that organization itself. But one of the unique things, we talk about all the similarities, the differences that we have been one of the biggest things that have helped us as well. The makeup that RIMPA has and its membership and where they work, and being a little bit more government heavy than you take ARMA, which is almost the exact opposite. And being able to see what RIMPA is doing to support its membership in that way allows us to find new ways to bring in more of each side, I think, for both organizations. And that's huge. So instead of, I talk about this a lot as well, partnerships that prevent us from having to reinvent the wheel and do things ourselves and be able to cue off of what other people are doing, or utilize resources, or share and do those things, is going to get us to where we need to be so much faster. And I think that's been a huge thing for both of our memberships as an aid in this partnership. They may not see all the benefits that they get, because a lot of the things are subtle. We start integrating this, you start integrating that, and it just kind of comes along. But we wouldn't have been able to do that as quickly if we didn't have that partnership that was there. And then I think really, looking at the benefits of this partnership, you're talking about two of the biggest global leaders of organizations like ours in the world, and we both want to broaden the access that we have and do things on a bigger scale. And I think that side of things is really helpful to our membership and to the industry. Over the period of time that as we grow this partnership even more, we're just going to see more and more things coming out of it that are aiding everybody on all sides. So it's interesting between the organizations and the industry, the things that are really benefiting out of this partnership. It's great.
It's
Thanks,
and to add to that, Nate, sorry, Peter, just to add to that.
No, that's all right.
It's not just Nate and I learning either. As I mentioned, you have previously been a board member, Peter, but I think both boards are really working well together. So, which is really, when we sit on a different group where Nate and I and two ARMA and two other RIMPA members meet, And it's like an informal discussion, isn't it, Nate? I mean, where they're talking about serious issues, but everyone seems to be getting on really well. And an interesting comment that we have we record the sessions, obviously, because they're virtual, and we have an ARMA person take the minutes, and she had some issues with our accent here in Australia, so
Yeah.
trying to take the minutes and working out what we were saying. So we need to slow down sometimes, I think, or not. We don't realise we have so much jargon. You just don't realise. But I haven't found that a problem, Nate. I don't know about you, but I mean, I know you're quite quick to go, what do you mean by that? And I'll go, what do you mean by that? But yeah, so that's not been a real major issue for us though, is it? The language.
No, I think just because we're so open about learning each other's terminology and everything like that. I mean, that's one of the first things we do is as soon as we hear something we don't know, we ask
Absolutely.
before we get down that rabbit hole. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
But
And
so
maybe I'd just like
Oh.
to add there that being as part of that collaboration in the board space, both of the organisations were so welcoming to each other, and we quickly established some really great common ground on which to have those discussions. And it was just such a positive experience that, you know, the world is our oyster when we work collaboratively like that, right? So it's been such a fantastic opportunity at all levels of our organisations.
Yeah. And I think that goes for the members as well. I know that there's been a lot of our members have met other members of ARMA and vice versa. And I think that's worked really well as well. So I think you're right. I think being hospitable, and I mentioned it earlier, Peter, about opening up the borders. That was what it was. It's like, okay, we're a long way to get to, but when you get here, it's really good fun, or it's good. It's lots of learnings, and it's worth the trip is probably what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think some of your colleagues, Nate, would attest to that as well, wouldn't they? That they've been happily hosted and happily,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
and our attendees at the conferences that RIMPA has been on our side, the RIMPA folks are always so they always bring gifts along, I will say. I mean, the scarves and stuff like that were a huge hit. Everyone was so jealous of the people that managed to snag themselves a scarf. So we have to get better on the ARMA side about bringing stuff like that over and continuing those things. And I know we're going to get into some of the other true benefits of, say, the memberships and stuff like that. But seeing some of our membership involved in committees and things like that on RIMPA's side is just absolutely amazing. So because not only does that help you guys to get that different perspective from us, but it comes back on our side because a lot of these people are really involved in our chapters and our volunteer structure on ARMA's side, and any new ideas and experiences and comments and thoughts that come out of those meetings immediately comes back and is put to work on our side. So just so many opportunities,
Agree. Sorry, Nate, just quickly before you go to the next question, Peter, did you want to just explain for the Australian people that are in attendance the structure, a very quick overview of the ARMA structure, just to show the difference between RIMPA and ARMA at the moment?
just on the membership side.
Yes,
Because I
so
mean, you guys have tiers
you've got your tiers, you've got your board, and then you've
right.
got that next level, and then you've got your brand, or what you want, your chapters. Sorry, we call them branch, but chapters. Do you want to just explain that?
Yeah, I mean, so for the Australians that are or the RIMPA folks, I guess you're not all in Australia. So for the RIMPA folks, really the structure of ARMA it's kind of a two-tiered membership. We have our professional members that are full voting members. They get the discounts on services and things like that. And we have an affiliate member the next level down membership, which doesn't get voting rights and things like that. And then we have organizational memberships, corporate memberships, things like that are really just bulk professional memberships to get things in there. But below that, we do have chapters. So 80 some chapters around the country and in Canada and other parts of the world that people can be a member of and really get that local feel to it, that local experience. which is, I know, different. What you were referring to earlier when you were talking about those geographical areas, we used to have a region structure, but we found a lot of the same things were going on. We had some great things coming out of some of that structure, but we wanted to make it more uniform. So kind of pulled that into a committee to be able to support those chapters a little bit more consistently. But that's really the makeup of the structure. I know yours is much more complex, so it'd be great if you could talk about that for our ARMA folks.
Just to ask a quick question on that. If I join a local branch, does that automatically make me an overall ARMA member? Or am I only a member of that
No,
branch?
you have to be an
Chapter, sorry,
international member
chapter.
first, and then you can join a chapter.
Right. Okay. So it's the other way. Yeah. So
Yep.
RIMPA has, it's actually quite similar. We have 3 tiers of membership. We have we have corporate members, which is your organizational members. We have professional members, and you do certification where we do what we call status. So we have 3 tiers of status here, associate, chartered, and fellow. And you have to earn, when I say earn, you have to apply and earn for those. And it's about your experience and contribution to the industry. And we have an assessment process that goes through that determines that. It's just, we're trying to build on that, but I'll be honest, out of our 3,500 members, we've only got just over 200 professional members. So we're working on that at the moment, and Peter and I are both part of that process to streamline how, and it's not to make it easier, but it's to actually streamline it a little bit to make it make it easier so that doesn't feel like it's complicated, to put it bluntly.
Sure.
And then we have what we call individual members, so they can be anyone. And I don't know about you guys, Nate, but we actually don't ask for any involvement in the information management or governance industry as an individual. So I'm putting it this way: if you wanted to be, you could be a window cleaner and join, I suppose, because we actually don't ask for that. I don't know. Do you guys ask for any? You do?
No, there's no prerequisite for membership at that level there, or at all. Even you have to have the knowledge base for our certifications and things like that, but for membership, no.
Yeah, same. We're the same, because I know we've got a couple of associations similar to us. So the Archivist Association here in Australia, that basically you need to have a qualification, don't you, Peter, to join? So you've got to actually be an archivist or have an interest in archives, I said thinking. But we, as I said, that, which is interesting. I don't know whether we need to do that or not, but I don't think we do, but that's fine. Because we do have CIOs, and we have that affiliate membership as well, that if you've just got an interest, or if you're retired, or, as I said, if you're a manager of that section, but you don't necessarily are a practitioner, you can join, okay, and be involved. Good. But we don't have any chapters, branches, anything like that anymore. That's gone. So it's run from the head office. So Nate, my team, run all the events across all the whole of Australia and New Zealand. So remember, we take in New Zealand as well. So we do all the events across both countries. And we have what we call an ambassador program, which is the intent of that is that people nominate to be volunteer ambassadors for RIMPA within their local areas. So and we do have that. We have a really great spread at the moment, that we've got what we call ambassadors across Australia and New Zealand in all states and territories. So they give us the local flavour. So what's trending no different to the US, Nate. In Australia, every state and territory has different legislation. They have different ways of doing things, even though we're all, one, we're not. So we get the local flavour from those ambassadors, because what's trending in Western Australia could be very different to what's trending in Victoria or Queensland, and or even New Zealand, again, being mindful of different country, completely different country, even though they're a hop, skip, and a jump away across the water. They do things very differently as well. So that's our structure. And just to reiterate, I'll bring it up the next one, but yeah, we're primarily government. We would be 75% government membership. That's organisations, individuals, affiliates, the whole lot would be that. So yeah. Well, I know you're the opposite.
We're the opposite. Yep.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Which slides right nicely into our next question, Anne. If we're primarily government, is our focus trying to get some more of the private sector? So let's talk about what the biggest focus area for both of our organisations are in the next couple of years.
Yes, sorry, and I'm happy to lead on from that because I just mentioned it, but definitely expanding our private industry membership because in Australia, I know the US is probably a little bit different. You have lots of legislation, information management and governance legislation that rules private industry, and here in Australia, not so much. They're sort of left to their own demise, I'll be honest. And that's going to change, I'm hoping, over the next few years. But in doing that, I think RIMPA needs to start that journey for them all. And we're trying to get a lot more private industry. So we have the big banks and the big mining companies and those sorts of things. Yes, they realise because they've got records and information management expertise or practitioners working in their organisation, so they can see the benefit. It's really, and I'm going to be upfront. Everyone does records management. It doesn't matter how big or small your business is. Everyone does records management, and it's all needed. Whether you're the news agents on the corner, I'm not saying we need to go and get news agents as members, but literally the news agents on the corner, they have major privacy issues because they collect a whole lot of information about your address and your likes, about you, like dropping off your newspaper and your credit card details and all those sorts of things. And yet they don't have there's no real management of those records. And they're the ones, unfortunately, that get little ones like that get hacked and they can be ruined. Their business can be ruined by that happening, right? Besides reputational, it's also cost of having to rectify that or being in breach of privacy and all those sorts of things where we do fine over here for those sorts of things. So this is where I think that RIMPA needs to get the message out, is that, as I said, little news agents on the corner right up to BHP mining it's still important. It's just on a bigger scale, okay? And we're not getting that. So what we've done from a focus perspective at RIMPA is purchased a product, which is a product that allows us to allows private industry to search legislation very easily, no matter what state or territory they live in. And they can find out how long they need to keep records and the privacy obligations and those sorts of things, and sensitive information and the value of information. So we've actually purchased that product too. It's one of our strategies to increase our private industry or membership. So that's really important to us at the moment. And learning from Nate and ARMA about what they do for their private industry has been instrumental in us moving forward, Nate. So it's been really good because there is a difference. Government have to have compliance. They're made to do things. It's sort of a bit of the norm to have a records and information management section. Private industry, not so much. But in the US, it is fairly predominant. And I'm just trying to learn, and we're learning about why is that so and how can we influence that in Australia. So that's one of the focus areas that we're looking at, Peter. Thank you.
And I just want to make a comment here. Stephen Whitaker has said in the chat that the USA has way too many regulations, federal and state. And I think we'd agree with you in Australia as well, right? Truckloads of them. Thanks, Stephen.
That oftentimes conflict with each other. And agreed. And I think most people would say that, no matter where you are. Whether you're a fan of regulation or not, I think most people even would agree that there's too much out there in certain areas. And what you were talking about is the focus of RIMPA is very similar on ARMA side. I mean, there's that growing that membership, continuing, I guess, to grow the membership. Both of our organizations have been lucky enough to be in a position where our membership is growing, our base is growing, our reach is growing. When a lot of organizations in our space, we talk about the differences between what we're doing for the industry and what we're doing as an organization, as an association. A lot of associations aren't as lucky as us right now with the way that we're going about it. So it's definitely a focus area. Some of the other areas that we ARMA are really focusing on is, you talked about that component support, the support of the chapters, and those types of things, really making sure that our, grassroots, chapters have the resources and the tools and the information they need to, continue to grow and thrive, and also to look at how international and the chapters can be talking about the same things at the same time, and really making sure we're aligning. Beyond that, really ARMA used to be a resource of all these things like standards and things like that we've had out there. And that's one of our bigger focuses as well, is brushing off those standards, making sure that they're now up to date and getting those back out there. I think they're a really important resource for our membership and for us to have that legitimacy as, you know, these leaders in information management, information governance as associations. So I think it's huge. One of the other areas that we're looking at are focus areas that you, Anne, have already done well, and RIMPA has done well in, you know, assisting in making sure that the right materials are being included in programs on the education side as well. Those types of things. And really, I would say, if we had to look at industries that we were looking to increase our position in it, higher ed is definitely one of those focus areas. Among the others, I mean, we're always developing and continuing to grow the other areas that we support, but getting into higher ed, and it's kind of like that developmental program. You know, someday the U.S. will have a team that makes it towards the end of the World Cup for soccer or football, however you want to get to it. But it takes those developmental programs to really get us there. It's going to take a long time, and we know this is a long game. So getting our foot in there and being able to participate and be at the table and help guide how that is going is really important for ARMA to start now, so that we have a foundation to build off of for years to come. And I'm sorry, Anne, I know that you're big into the Australian rules stuff, something I wasn't familiar with until I went to Australia and got an earful from Anne and her husband and everybody else, which was great. I still don't understand it 100%, but I'm getting there.
We promise we're taking you to a game when you next come. It's got to happen.
There you
It
go.
has to
There
happen.
you go.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing from a focus area point of view is that we're learning, and this was something that, Nate, when I first, and you've instilled this a little bit in me as well, that when I first started, that the board and even the members themselves were like, we're a membership association. And yes, we are, but the intent, I wanted the mindset to change to say we're a services association and the members will come, right? So it's all well and good. You can't just go, we're a membership association, yeah, pay us your dues, and there's nothing there on offer. Why bother? And that's what was happening, to be quite honest, at RIMPA 5 or 6 years ago. We were, you know, literally, and I'm a member, I was a member and still am a member. We were paying our dues, but not necessarily seeing a value for our dollar. And maybe 6 years ago, we were a little bit more complacent about giving over the dollars. But think about today, we're starting to really think that right now, for cost of living and everything, that's a luxury, or it's an add-on now to be a member of association. It's not something you have to have. I know that's the same in with ARMA. You don't have to be a member of RIMPA. So we need to prove to them that that's worth their value. And you've instilled that as well, Nate, and we've learned from you, and we've implemented some of the services that ARMA have given as additional services to our members, because the more you give, the more you're going to get. And I think that's proven true. And Peter's been on that journey with me since day dot, pretty much. And, you know, when I first started, we literally had, I think, 1,100 members. So that's 5 years ago, and we've now got 3,500 members. So the intent is provide the services and they will come. It's, you know, it's as simple as that. Instead of going, let's just collect dues. You know, that was it's. So
it's a real mind shift to move from a member organisation to a services organisation. And you focus, your whole focus of what you're wanting to achieve and how you deliver those services just changes.
Yeah. And I listen to Nate all the time, and he'll say, we're doing this. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. We could do that. You know what I mean?
Same.
Yeah, but that's what we do. And that's the real benefit that you get out of it. Like you said, it's the hidden benefits that you don't really realise that you get out of it. So, yeah.
I think you make a really good point, Anne, that we don't have to be members of these organisations, right? There's no legislative obligation. So our members come willingly. And I think it's now we've got this benefit of this joint membership between our two organisations, right? So let's talk a little bit about those benefits. I know I'm one of them. I've jumped into some chats and some other groups that are provided by ARMA, but maybe, Nate, you might start with what would you guys see as some of the benefits of that joint membership?
Well, I think it's best even to start a little bit further back and say what is the joint membership. So, I mean, as an ARMA member, we have a greatly discounted option to add RIMPA membership, and vice versa. As a RIMPA member, you have a discounted chance to join ARMA. But I think the real differentiator between these joint memberships is they're full memberships. I mean, they are memberships of, and you get access to, yeah, there are certain levels that you guys have on your side as far as voting, and those are things are concerned. But really, when you look at what is going to help our membership the most is access to more resources, access to more information, access to more experienced people that are doing the things that they're doing. Because, I mean, let's face it, nobody is a siloed company anymore. Everybody's doing some sort of work somewhere with other countries, with whatever it may be. So being able to have enjoy a joint membership that gives you all those benefits, not just the subset of you get a newsletter or something like that for your membership. I know, and looking at the participants, I know of one person sitting on the phone right now that is on a committee for RIMPA and helps to guide the activities that you guys are trying to do as a joint ARMA RIMPA member. So it pays off. It's a huge thing to give our membership such an easy access to such a big wealth of resources. I mean, I don't, it's worth way beyond that add-on cost, both ways, I think. So, not only that, though, being able to, you continue to support our organization's partnership to be able to keep working together and come up with new ways where that we're coordinating efforts, coordinating events, coordinating all of these things is going to be huge. I'll turn it over to you, Anne.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think the biggest, all those benefits are there, and I mean, and I really thank the ARMA members that are on our committees, because the intent of that is that we start to have webinars, obviously, because we've got to look at the time difference. So webinars are probably the best thing, rather than a live or in person. But the webinar content and how that can apply to both ARMA and RIMPA. But I think the biggest membership benefit, in my opinion, and I'm a part of that, is the online forums. We both have them. And I do the digest every day, and I look at what's what's being discussed, and it's amazing, because some of the things that ARMA or some of the ARMA members are going through, I personally or other members have already done and can provide that advice, and vice versa. So it's just opened up the world. And I know I've had feedback from members that are reciprocal, that they've got both memberships, and even those that haven't and want to and are thinking about it, going, oh my goodness, this now gives me a whole nother world, and literally a whole nother world to look at and have input. And I think Nate, ARMA would say, where Australia may be ahead in some areas, and ARMA are ahead, and not ARMA, US are ahead in others. I think that the governance area is definitely ARMA's. They're much more ahead in that area, and we're probably more ahead in the digitisation space. That's just my observation. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my observation. And I think the learnings from that is you can't buy, that's priceless, to be quite honest. So I don't know about you guys, but I love learning. Why should I make mistakes that have already been made before and have been fixed, when there's someone out there that knows the answer or can help me through? So that's how I've always learned, by listening to others. So that's been great. The forum, I think, is amazing. The other thing I want to bring up is the scholarship, Nate, that this year, from a joint membership point of view, we had one of our members win a scholarship, purely because the criteria they nominated, and it was about, how much input they'd given into RIMPA and what they planned to achieve and how they wanted to be a part of that ARMA space. and went over, and can I tell you, still talking about it today. I met with Meryl only just 2 nights ago, and still is amazed and taken back by the whole experience. So I thank you, Nate, for that, and for all the ARMA members. She felt welcomed. She thought it was an amazing experience. The conference was great. The program was great. So yeah, that's another major benefit for our members, to have that opportunity to go to another conference in another country. I think is amazing. And I know, Nate, that's what ARMA are doing for our conference coming up in September next year. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a reciprocal thing. So yeah, another great membership benefit.
And I would just kind of echo what you said about the online forums. Yeah, that community is huge. The interactions and stuff that we see on our side, and I would equate it to, it's that viral Facebook thing. It's funny. I look at somebody, posting something relevant or something, and we're using Facebook and not LinkedIn for this. I know it's not business, but you have somebody post something here or whatever, and now that I have so many friends now in Australia, I see the same thing going through their feeds and them commenting, and it's that same ability then between our communities to get a different perspective. It's the same question, it's the same thing being presented, and a different viewpoint, a different focus, a different whatever it may be from each other's organizations, to make sure that you have all the information you need to make a sound decision. Or there may be something that you guys have already done in this area that we haven't even explored yet. Having a membership that allows you to easily get into that. I mean, it's super quick. Like you said, you can get it in the digest and the email, have it come there and see what's being discussed and kind of take it from there. So yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, agree.
Excellent. And what you've really talked about as benefits are that real lovely collaborative approach, right? It's about making sure that we have that really solid foundation of a partnership to help us move forward. There's just a comment here. Your comments on making the same mistakes again is spot on, Anne. There are so many grey areas that we need to work together to solve them. And I think that's just really illustrative of what both of you have been talking about as some of the benefits of membership. And the partnership is such an important aspect of that, right? So why don't we talk about a little bit more formally about why that partnership is so important for us, for both RIMPA and ARMA? Anne, do you want to start?
Yeah, look, I suppose the importance for me is that on our own, we're small. Okay, so that's my opinion, and we're a big island or a big country or a big continent, whatever you want to call us, but we're still small. But collectively, and ARMA are big, but there's the US, there's big, more than just Australia and the US in the world, obviously. But together and I'm going to use this, and Nate's heard it a million times, but this bigger voice. But it also this bigger resource pool, it's bigger everything. And I think the partnership is so important, because I was a practitioner like everybody else out there, and I wanted to know what else was going on in the world besides what's happening here in Australia. Now, you can get told, and you can be told that Australia's the forerunners in this, and but that's Australians telling Australians that, right? Let's be honest, you're blowing your own trumpet, basically. And I'm sure the same happens in the US, and I'm sure the same happens in Africa, and that they all think they're doing amazing things. So I wanted to know if that was true. And I think the partnership demonstrates where we really are on the ladder and it's not about a competition. It's about knowing what we know and what else is out there. And I think if you pretend that it's just about Australia, I think that's a really insular approach, especially to this industry. And Nate will attest to this as well. We realise that we've all got the same problems or the same issues or the same challenges. You mentioned education in a different way, Nate, but we've got educational issues here as well. Like, our courses are dropping off here in Australia. Your courses are staying, but you may not accredit them. But so we need to look at how we can do that better. But it's nice to know that we're not on our own. I'll be honest, Peter, that's one of the benefits of the partnership. That others are either feeling the same pain or have rectified the pain. And I think it's important that we open up our eyes, and we, as I said, not just insular to our small area. COVID has, and I'm going to use the C word, the COVID word, it's demonstrated how global we can be, right? Before that, I think that we had the mindset that if you lived in Australia, you just worked in Australia and you didn't do anything else. And there were very few people in Australia that knew about the international ability to be able to work internationally, because, you know, people that work for BHP and those sort of things, they already had the global aspect in their working life. But now everybody knows it. Everyone knows that we can talk to anyone at any time if we want to. I mean, Nate and I speak at 3 o'clock in the morning for Australia. Not so much, but Nate, no, but then Nate would speak to me at like 10 or 11 o'clock his time at night. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, I mean, maybe we're a bit silly, Nate, you and I, but my point is that we're accessible to each other. We can, and it's easy. So I think we need to, get out of that insular that's just about Australia. That's what's important to me about the partnership with ARMA, is it just opens that up completely. So Nate?
Yeah, and I think one of the most important reasons to keep such a unique partnership going, and one of the most important things coming out of this, is that we can show other organizations like ours that we want to partner with that it can be a friendly partnership, a partnership where we're both trying to help each other's organizations, help the industry. You know, a lot of organizations you get into and they're like, oh, you know, they're standoffish. They feel like you're there to take over. You're there to direct how they're doing what it is that they are doing. And that's not what our partnership is about at all. It's about learning from each other, and learning from our mistakes, learning from our successes, learning from our membership. I mean, all across the board, how you interact with other organizations that are similar to yours in Australia. You know, when you talk about the archivists, you talk about the data people, you talk about all of these things. And the fact that we have different relationships, you know, between ARMA and RIMPA outside of this partnership has helped us learn how to talk to those other organizations a little bit better. Bring to the table what is important to them, so that they know that we're there to help. Because you know, I see one of the biggest growth areas for both of our organizations, outside of the things we already talked about, is the increase in the number of partnerships that we have with other organizations that are strong, that are there to keep moving things forward. They're there to help their membership, and being an example at a global scale of what can happen when two strong organizations come together. They don't have to fight. They don't have to compete for this or that. They can move things forward without any worry about, you know, sharing that information. It is huge. And I think that's what's going to really resonate as we keep moving forward.
You're right, but Nate, you and I are lucky because you and I didn't have the wall up in the first place.
Right.
So if you come to a partnership with already a wall and then have to gain the trust, I think that's harder. We didn't have that. The wall was down. We trusted each other, and you had to actually prove to distrust before the wall would go back. And it hasn't happened. Obviously, we continued that trust, but I think that's really important that we came with the right attitude. The other benefit of this partnership is, and this is something that I don't know if we've really realised, Nate, and I just thought about it, was that we've got this ability now to partner with other people collectively. So we've got joint partners that we talk about, both of us, about what we're getting from those partners and what those partners are giving to our associations. And we talk about how that's working. Is it working? Are you getting something, not better or more, because obviously we both have we need different things, but it's been a really good exercise over the last 12 months to say, and the other thing we've done is shed trade or exhibitors or vendors, whatever you would call them. So as you know, our big diamond sponsor here in EasyScan has now taken over to go over to spend some time at InfoCon in the next, they did this year and they're doing next year as well, as my understanding. And we've had the same. We've had, you know, Archive 360 and Preservica, and I'm not here to mention names, but I shouldn't have said all those names. But anyway, my point is that we're sharing them. No, we are. They're starting. And you know what? Those companies wouldn't have realised the importance of actually exhibiting their wares in the other country if we hadn't had that relationship. So that's so important. That's not just important to ARMA and RIMPA. That's important to the industry. That's important to the vendors. That's important to our members. So yeah, that just opens the exposure. I think we could go on. There's probably that many benefits. It's just not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about the future of our partnership and what that might start to look like?
Yeah, go on, Nate. You go. I've just spoken.
Well, you know, one of the most one of the things at the forefront too is that, you know, Ann and I sit on the board of the Global Information Consortium, which kind of RIMPA and ARMA came together. It was something actually that came along very early on in discussions that Ann and I had. And you talk about the bigger voice. That's one of the exciting things that I think we're working on together. People that were past board members on the RIMPA side and the ARMA side, and current board members and ourselves are part of this organization that'll be working with other organizations to really push things on a global scale for advocacy and things like that. I think that's a huge piece. But honestly, being involved in, you know, Ann and a contingent is going to be in Palm Springs at the InfoNext conference for ARMA, and being a part of the councils that are going to be meeting on there and hearing those things going on, and you know, continuing on both sides to look towards the future. I think what this has given us the ability to do is to understand the things that we need to be talking about, and bring those to the forefront in front of all the people that have the best knowledge to help us do what we need to do to support our members in the industry, which is great at those conferences, the webinars, you know, our general membership as a whole, the context that we have in other organizations. I think those things are really where you're going to see a lot of momentum on the future of this partnership. And then, you know, really collaboration on things that we're doing together versus, you know, pushing and elevating each other's things. I think over the next year or so, you'll see more joint things coming out, more things where they're kind of intertwined. So it's not necessarily ARMA or RIMPA or ARMA. It's both collaborating together to kind of come together for the resources that we need.
Yeah, no, I agree. As I mentioned before, it's not just about Australia, and it's definitely not just about the US. The GIC is about collectively, and it's a bit more than just even associations across the world. It's about the whole information management genre, or the regime of it. So we're talking, aren't we, Nate, data and libraries and health information and the e-discovery people and the archivists and the knowledge managers, and that, I mean, that's all what we see is collectively is information management. And there'll be times when, yes, that we'll have differences of opinion because we are in different areas. But I think generically, overall, what the GIC is about talking about those things that impact all of us. And we mentioned already today education, and Nate, you mentioned standards, and I think that's been, isn't it? It stands true to all our focus groups and our discussions around the GIC, is that, you know, that the standards and the inadequacies or the inconsistencies between all parts of the world about the same thing is an issue. And I think every time we try and talk about the GIC, we say to people, you know, and I think Michael Haley does this perfectly when he stands up and says, you know, I've got a client that's got, you know, has an office in 7 countries, and for just, I think it's application to leave, it's got a different disposal, and I'm talking the variance is huge from, you know, 1 year to I think 25 years, or one, I think he even had one that was permanent. So that's just such an indiscrepancy. If you've got a global company, that's so hard, and I think that's going to be more and more. But the future, you're right, Nate, it's about us working more and more together and being far more intertwined. But yeah, and I think this global information consortium, and I'm so looking forward to Palm Springs, and this is where we've got a concept, don't we, Nate, at the moment? The GIC is, I suppose, conceptual. We've got the ideas, we've got a prospectus, but I think we need to get some runs on the board, and that's what Palm Springs is about bringing in some of these people I just talked about. So the data people, the health information, the librarians, the archivists, and other associations. So obviously we're talking to people in the UK, in Africa, those sorts of places too, to be involved, the UAE, to be involved in the GIC. So it'll be an invitation to attend that meeting to actually help set the journey, isn't it, Nate, really? And take some ownership in that journey. So yeah, really important. It's a bit of a passion for me to have this global perspective on information management or information governance. So yeah, that's our future, I hope. That's what I'm going to focus on. Yeah.
Oh, the future's looking bright.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
I think it's really exciting, Peter. I think, the other big thing that the GIC or even ARMA and RIMPA together will be about the sustainability of our industry. There's all this big, the AI is going to take over and all this sort of stuff. So we know that's not true. We know that's not true, but we've got to demonstrate that to the world, and we've got to not let it happen. I think that's records and information managers tend to sometimes can be a little bit introverted and sit back and watch the world go by. But Nate and I are not introverted, as you can tell. But and that's what we've got. And we've also got boards that are not introverts either. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen, and that we are sustainable. And actually, to be honest, I think we're a wanted commodity in the future more so than we are now. But we need to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's really important, I think, from ARMA and RIMPA's perspective. Collectively, we can do that so much better.
Yeah, agree.
Agreed.
Nate, any final words from you? We're almost at time at the moment. I know you guys could continue to talk probably for another hour or maybe even two. But
Right. Ann and I, that is one thing. We always have to cut each other off at the end, like when we run out, because we have a lot of meetings, and it's usually a time where we're getting ready for other things. So yeah, so to avoid going on even further right now, I'd like to just wrap up and just say, the people watching right now, whether you're on the ARMA side or the RIMPA side, consider that that joint membership. It's a huge plus, and it's just an easy add-on. And keep a watch on, I think we're going to do more of these collaborative types of webinars and things like that. So look to the progress that we're making each year. I think both organizations have been able to laud a lot of the great things that we have done. And it's very nice to give presentations and talk about all the things we've done and all the exciting things we have for our future. But we can't do it without all of you that are a part of our organization. So keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep supporting you as best we can, and continue to grow this partnership. I'm excited for everything to come.
Thanks, Nate.
I'll just reiterate what Nate said. I don't need to repeat it. I couldn't have said it better, Nate. Well done. And I just want to thank everyone for listening to us. And as I said, I mentioned early on, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. And the 2024 is looking good, Nate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, great.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Stephen's going to go off and have a shot of bourbon. It's a little bit early out here in Australia.
I'll be right behind you.
Yeah,
but we might have a mimosa or something.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning here. So and this is in Queensland, but medicinal only. Okay, thanks, Stephen.
Awesome. But,
thanks. It's 12 o'clock somewhere, so we could, it doesn't really matter. Peter, thank you so much for facilitating today. I really appreciate that.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to say, look, it's been a joy talking with you both today. What I've learned out of this is that, whilst we have our differences, they make us stronger, and our similarities allow us to work smarter. So together, with that bigger voice that we keep talking about, we can achieve anything globally. And I think that's really exciting for the information practitioners, not only on this call, but the people globally who will see this webinar at some point and go, yes, I've got to be part of that journey. So thanks, guys, and thanks to everyone who have been on this call today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.